All right, hello everyone. Firstly, thank you to Columbia University for having us. Thank you for everyone here for showing up, and thank you for BetaWorks for hosting us when Columbia couldn't because of the COVID restrictions. Have you ever wondered how these crypto projects, these unicorns, just seem to appear out of nowhere? I'm going to give you a kind of inside look into how these things are created. And I'm going to do so by first starting off with a bit of a story about myself so that I can show you both my path and the things I did right and the things I did wrong and my learnings and the things I'm going to do differently in future. So I started off as a law student at the University of Sydney, then became a lawyer in London. My first wave, and waves is a constant theme I'll be referring back to, was actually in internet marketing. The second wave, I retired in 2015, went to music school, lived in a student dorm. And then in 2017, I started Hedera Hashgraph. I caught the blockchain wave. And then 2019, I was the founding CMO of the Reserve protocol, and now I've started Nillion and NFT.com. So what are the commonalities behind this journey that I've had, right? And there's these two icons down the bottom here. One is, I'm not a surfer actually. I can surf, but I'm not a surfer. It's my ability to kind of see waves and to be enchanted by waves. And waves is something that I'll explore in this talk. And the second, that Nakamoto Pepe there, is an attention to detail and an obsession with things which are kind of contrarian, but make a lot of sense. Okay, and we'll go through that in the course of this talk. So what are the ingredients to a crypto unicorn? I've come up with 6 potential ingredients, but there are possibly far more, right? Here they are. The first is timing a wave. The second is a phenomenal team. The third is the idea. And then you have things like community, rewarding token economics, and then lastly, connected and multidimensional thinking. And we'll go through this in this talk. But as I was coming up with this talk, I was like, I wonder which one of these is the most important, right? I think that I thought initially it might be team, but then as I thought more and more about this, it occurred to me that I would rather be a poor team, or an average team in a phenomenal wave than a really excellent team in a terrible wave or a non-growing industry, right? Because in an industry, the tide lifts all boats. And so blockchain and cryptocurrencies have several waves and several sub-waves going through them. And I feel like timing a wave is the most important part, which is why I've been able to create these, in inverted commas, crypto unicorns so quickly. Because not only have I caught an industry in the right wave, but sub-waves of that industry. And like I said, we will go through that in a second. Now, a phenomenal team is a very close second, because if you have a phenomenal team, they will often pivot to the right idea, or they can create themselves the waves. And then the third, the third most important, is the disruptive idea. Now, you can have a phenomenal team starting with a poor idea, and they will eventually figure out how to achieve a great idea. And there are multiple examples of that, which again we'll go through. And then everything else we will also cover in this conversation. It's all bound together by hard work, and that's something I'll come to in my conclusion. So the first thing I want to talk about is timing a wave, because I did say that is the most important part of creating a crypto unicorn, all right? How do you time a wave? And let's talk about my waves, the waves that I've taken, okay? So if you look on the left, these are the no wave areas. I was a lawyer. I went to banking for a year after I graduated, and then I started an online shoe store. Now, it's not like you can't make money off waves. In fact, off no waves or off small waves. You can. I made great money being a lawyer and being a banker and selling shoes, but you got to think about the probability of you actually making a lot of money is just not as high as what happened on the right, whether it's with NFTs, NFT.com, or by just buying my NFT collection, crypto, internet marketing, which was the first wave. And I did catch the legalization of cannabis wave in 2016. I didn't start a company there, but I did invest in a lot of stocks very early. So really, the important thing is to sort of understand what the wave is and how to take advantage of it. And the next thing I want to talk about is sort of how to take advantage of it. Firstly, what is the wave? Secondly, how to take advantage of it. And that's really, it comes down to the idea that you're going to capitalize on in that wave. So I call this wading, right? So I've named this slide wading, finding the wave and the right idea. So let's say I've got a wave. It's blockchain, or it's cannabis, or it's or it's internet marketing at the time. How do I find the right idea within that wave? Well, I've written this from left to right because I feel like you can go to expert opinions and industry connections, right? And do as much research as you can. But often the consensus opinion on what the opportunities are the ones which give you the more average results as well. That's what I found. The second, or else, why wouldn't those experts be doing it themselves, right? Or those people who are on Twitter. It's the man in the arena which I care about the most, and the person who's actually creating that unicorn. The second thing is imagining a better future. Now, the problem with imagining a better future is that I can imagine a better future for widgets, but I'm not obsessed with widgets. I don't breathe it day to day, right? And that's the same problem with conceptualizing business models. A lot of my friends, a lot of my younger friends, they all think, oh, this is a great business idea. This is a great business idea. Why doesn't this happen? Yes, the why doesn't this happen is important, but the obsession, which is number 4, which is, I think, the most important thing, the deep market experience and the obsession. You don't have to have had industry experience, but you've got to be obsessed with the idea. Right? You've got to be obsessed. I was totally obsessed with blockchain before in 2017. Here's how obsessed I was. In 2017, I went to Founders Fund, Ribbit Capital, a whole bunch of Silicon Valley VCs, and I said, hey, support me with Hedera Hashgraph. They all said no. Every single one of them said no. I had to put I had to get the first $500,000 from my brother, all right, and then put it into the company. And the reason that they said no was because they didn't understand it as well as I did. I just was so obsessed. I knew that this thing, which was an alternative consensus mechanism, was going to, it could change the world, and it had a narrative to do so, right? But why was I so confident? Because I was literally obsessed, right? So you can conceptualize business models. You can imagine a better future, but unless you have obsession, it's just not super relevant. Okay? Now, there are some founding teams that start and then become obsessed, and that can work as well. But either way, it forms a very, very important part. And so I've instilled within the culture of the companies that I've started that same sort of obsession. Some of my founding team are here, and they actually wrote a slide after this which says obsession, and you'll see it. A final point, and I really like this one, is a contrarian narrative. And the reason I like this one is because if you take something that's too obvious, then oftentimes you get more average results, right? And that's why, in 2008, we had a contrarian narrative of internet money with Bitcoin. In 2017, the contrarian narrative was a non-blockchain way of achieving scalability, right? Which is, blockchain just came out. What are you talking about, a non-blockchain way? What does that even mean? The third contrarian narrative for Reserve was a stable cryptocurrencies. I mean, cryptocurrencies were just going up, down, everywhere. And someone says a stable cryptocurrency. Well, why would you want that? Right? There is your contrarian narrative. In a contrarian narrative, there's always the consensus view and the contrarian view, and you want that contrarian view, right? And the fourth is in Nillion. Now, why am I excited about Nillion? Why do I think it's because there are four potential contrarian narratives. The first is computation, decentralized computation that doesn't even, it's not designed to form an immutable ledger. It's just simply designed to do verifiable computations. The second is storing all of your secrets. This is one of my favorites. Storing all of your secrets in plain sight for everyone to see in a mathematically secure way. Right? It's literally not even encrypted. It's just information theoretic secure. It's just you can't hack it with an unlimited amount of computing power. Right? That seems really weird. Imagine having your passwords, your photos, etc., where everyone could see them in a transformed format. You know, it's strange. It's a strange narrative, right? And that's kind of why I like it. Another narrative is consensus without communication, right? Like, how do you achieve consensus on a computation without any communication? That's a really strange one, right? So these contrarian narratives are things that I go for when I search for things to back or to start. Interestingly, when I can't find a contrarian narrative, what I do is wade. All right? And that's why in one of the last slides, it was wading. So as you're surfing to catch a wave, you're working really hard, right? You know, today was literally a back-to-back day. And you know, the people who are closest to me know that when I'm swimming and I'm working, it's a very, very intense environment. But when I'm not, I'm literally wading, just waiting for a wave. I don't really chase. I become kind of a subject matter expert on things, but you know, I don't necessarily, you know, basically what I'm saying is I'm waiting for the next wave and the next contrarian narrative, because it's got to be worth my time to execute, you know. Okay, so back to the ingredients for a crypto unicorn. Phenomenal team. I have had the pleasure of knowing several entrepreneurs. An example that comes to mind right now is the founders of Alchemy, who struggled for several years before overnight achieving $1 billion valuation, all right? Or even my co-founders in Nillion, Miguel and Rob. I met them in 2017. They came to me with a variation of zero-knowledge proofs, right, which would have made zero-knowledge proofs faster. Was it interesting? Was it contrarian? No, not really, right? Like, it would have made Zcash faster or Monero faster. I'm like, that's worth something, but it's not going to create a, you know, in inverted commas, overnight crypto unicorn. Doesn't have that edge to it, right? So pushed back on them. 2019, they came back to me. They said, hey, we've got this way of doing GDPR-compliant identity databases. I'm like, oh, what's that? So then I went into it, took a look at it, realized that you can't approach identity in a decentralized way as a frontal motive. You have to go via providing value to people and then having those identities onboarded into whether it's a centralized or a decentralized network. No one actually cares, right? My point is, though, that team eventually figured out how to make things work, but it took time, right? And that's the problem with having a team without the wave, right? So it takes time, the right idea, you know. So the key elements of a founding team: entrepreneurial hustle and skill, crypto nativeness, raw intelligence, and the right mix of people. If you don't have entrepreneurial skill and hustle, what happens is you create companies that are just not as competitive as they should be. They're not top 1 to 3. They're kind of somewhere down the line, right? This is what happens when you don't have entrepreneurial skill and hustle. If you lack crypto nativeness, i.e., you know, being a crypto degen or having that experience, then what happens is you lack exact product market fit, right? So you create products where that crypto people just don't use as much as they could. Raw intelligence. If you don't have raw intelligence, what happens? I know a lot of teams who have a lot of energy and not that sort of raw analytical intelligence. And what you have is this situation where you get a lot of wheels turning and there's a lot of activity, but the results just don't reflect the amount of effort being put in, right? I feel so bad for people that have that, and I just wish, sometimes I think about them and I was like, I wish there was a co-founder who just had that raw intelligence alongside a co-founder who just had that rah-rah, right? Like these, and so this isn't all in one person, this is in a team, right? This is what you want, and you want it so that the different members of the team can balance each other out. Whereas, if you give too much power to the person who has a raw intelligence but is not crypto native, man, you're in deep trouble, right? They're going to focus on the wrong things completely. I've been in so many of these situations where the balance is different, and that's what brings me to the good mix of skills and capabilities. I've had teams that are extremely technical and can't market, and you get these great products and no one knows about them. Right? I regularly have VCs hitting me up and being like, man, this team is so good. Look what they've built, this multi-chain DEX. It's like amazing, but no one knows about them, right? And that happens all the time. Or vice versa, right? Where you've got these teams with great marketing and then the delivery is like, meh, whatever, So what you want is a mix of all these, I find, as well as something that is very undervalued, which is really good synergy. And I find that people who have been friends before is very good. People who have worked together in a professional capacity before is even better. And people who have built companies before is like the main thing. But oftentimes I mean, NFT.com is a little bit different because the founding team for Hedera Hashgraph came together. But the other founding team members, Alex and Ryan and Paul, if you're watching this, I'm calling you guys out, were part of my founding team for Hedera, and I asked them to come board for Nillion, and they said, made too much money, and I'm enjoying myself on the beach now, but if you really want me to, I'll do it just because I'm loyal, but I don't think I want to go into the firefight again, right? And so, but that synergy, if they came on board with me, it'd just be like, click, click, click. Things would work. And so that synergy is extremely important because it just lets you get things done very quickly. Okay, evangelizing a community. Now, I know probably a lot of people who are watching this want to know how I've built these communities. And honestly, this is the question I get asked the most. Naval has said on one of his podcasts that a good marketer is one in a million, and a good community builder could be once in a generation, or something along those lines. And it's true. I literally can't tell you how much I get hit up with projects asking me this. So I'm so glad that now I can say, hey, watch this YouTube video, and instead of me getting on a phone call with you. So let's go into this in a little bit more depth than some of the others. All right. Firstly, I want to say that building a community isn't a one-size-fits-all. The strategies constantly change, especially when you're trying to deal with achieving exponentials in terms of community growth. And the solution isn't the same for every single project. So some people are like, dude, I'm taking your playbook. I'm like, dude, it's a different project. You can't take my playbook, right? You got to think in terms of first principles. Even in the same niche, so the Bored Apes relative to the Mechaverse project, right? Both had great art, right? The Mechaverse project had a phenomenal run-up with great, Discord flows and good community support during its rise up. Whereas the Bored Apes built community via the right supporters. So Guy Oseary ended up coming on board, I think, the team, or being somehow incentivized by the team, my understanding, and brought on a bunch of celebrities, and those people sort of championed the Bored Apes community, right? Alongside several other initiatives. Which brings me to a very important point, which is what I like to do with community is two main principles. The first is stack probabilities, i.e., Guy Oseary might not have hit, but maybe something else would, but maybe something else would, maybe something else would. These initiatives, and I'll go through the initiatives after this, or some of the initiatives. And the second is go for the exponential, right? You can do incremental stuff. You got to do the basics right. But I want to get on. So an example of going for an exponential is with Hedera. We obviously had some of the crypto people interested, but what we did, which was kind of parallel to crypto, was go for the gold community. Who would have thought about that? Going for the gold community when you're going after the crypto community through Mike Maloney's Hidden Secrets of Money, right? And that absolutely blew up the community. My point is that the thinking that I was applying was go for the exponential. And a massive, massive mistake I find is to outsource your initial bootstrap marketing to an agency or someone who has a formulaic way of doing so, right? Because they're never going to go for the exponential. Marketing for a massive company and community building for a massive company is far, far different to marketing marketing and community building for a startup. You know, you can take risks that they can't take. You don't have to worry about brand. A mentor of mine, one of my early mentors, said, "Brand is bullshit below 100 million in revenue," right? And I kind of agree with him. You know, I don't think it's completely bullshit because, you know, but I do agree with the sentiment that he had. So let's get into the nitty-gritty so that no one calls me and asks me how to build a community, right? Here are some of my best practices and strategies, okay? And then I'll go after this into saying that this isn't the be-all, end-all, okay? This is just some things I do. The right support is an example of that is the Bored Apes with, you know, getting those celebrities on board. I think the Doodles had this as well, and, you know, they had really great influencers. You have a sort of overground approach of, there are companies out there that get, you know, BitCloud had like Sequoia and Andreessen and all these people. So anyway, the right supporters can help build a community, right? But they're not the be-all, end-all. This is in no way in any sort of order of importance. Heroes and characters. What Sam Bankman-Fried was to Solana, what Brock Pierce was to EOS, right? It's very, very hard to manufacture this because it takes someone who has a very good reputation, an audience that would be receptive to the idea, and they've got to be passionate about it. You can give them X% of tokens, it doesn't matter. They don't care, they're going to take those tokens and nothing's going to happen. They have to be on it, they have to consider it theirs, and they have to, and that's where the personal relationships tend to make a very big difference, right? Or just specific moments in time when something like that is possible, you know? I think Brock knew Dan Larimer, the founder of Solana, knew Sam Bankman-Fried, and you know that was even part of the multi-coin thesis in investing in Solana, that relationship existed, right? So these are examples of, these are examples. Story and common purpose. So the story that I utilized for Hedera, you know, which popped it off. I mean, I tried everything. I tried non-blockchain. It was a directed acyclic graph. I tried gossip about gossip, which is the way that the protocol works. And the one that really hit, the story that hit with both the community and which created the PR was blockchain is dead, the future is Hashgraph. I had no idea that was gonna take off, but it in fact did. But my point is that the testing that I did on the story and the testing that I did on how people would react to the story was very important. It was that common purpose that united the Hedera community in the beginning is a very evangelizing part of building a community and a very important part of building a community. And we've got engaging, rewarding early members. We did that in Hedera. With Nillion, we are literally approaching everyone who joins the Telegram within, I think it was the first 1,000. I'm not sure where we are at right now, but my directive was 1, you approach them, 2, you thank them, 3, you find out where they were from, 4, you offer them something, and 5, you find out if they have any value add for the project or if they would like to contribute in some way. You engage them, right? The fifth is the fifth is token price management. Was anyone here in the ICP initial sale who bought at like, you know, I don't know, a $400 billion valuation and watched the price crash? This is not what you want to do with the community, right? What you want to do is have a situation like Ethereum where I bought it at $20, other people, you know, and you constantly sort of ride this wave up. What it does is the antithesis of pissing a community off, which is what ICP did, right? What it does instead is it engenders loyalty to the protocol. The reason I had such difficulty in promoting Hedera was because the Ethereum nuts were just like protecting it because they had so much economic interest in it, because they'd followed it for so much of the time, and because they had bought into the story and the common purpose of Ethereum, right? And Hedera was a threat to that. I only realized how much of an advantage and moat that was when I tried to attack it, right? Which is also why I positioned Nillion as not a layer one. It is a meta infrastructure that assists layer one. I would not want to go up against those incumbents again, having done it once, right? And then engagement programs. You know, I actually really like what Helium has done here with their token economics and how they engage their community to put up 2G towers in different places. If you want to see great community engagement and token economics, you should check out the Helium project. It's pretty impressive. Okay, remember, there's no rules. So these are other strategies, right? And I give you examples of each of these. So, you know, with Twitter strategies, Chainlink had a sick Twitter community in the beginning. Olympus DAO with a 3-3, and Wonderland as well with a frog, right? All across Twitter, you probably saw it. Airdrops, whitelisting. Okay, so what I will say, and this will all be online, so you can take this. These are all worth executing on, okay? The difference is that you want to, if you can, execute them with just a little bit of difference. So an example would be, imagine doing an airdrop where you had, in order to collect the tokens, you had to do something like verifiably post on Twitter, or you know, invite a friend, or do something along those lines, so that what you're actually doing is creating distribution via the token airdrop. It's a pretty good idea, actually. I might have to do that for NFT.com. So another example is mining strategies, right? Another variation of mining strategies could be you know, creating a situation where you embed within the mining protocol a way to encourage customer acquisition. So, you know, actually we're about to do that with Nillion ring mining, and so I won't say any more about that. Or, you know, with the top-down investor strategy with BitClout, for example. Imagine if you had all these investors that wanted to invest. Well, you want to invest, then write a public statement saying that you will protect the token price below this floor, right? Like, if it goes below this floor, you believe it's undervalued, so you will buy it. That statement in itself leverages this, so that you leverage the community, the confidence you have in the community, et cetera, et cetera. My point is that what you're actually doing is not just doing these, you're playing for the exponential, which is what we had discussed before. Hope that was useful. Rewarding token economics. Now, this is a hard one to talk about because, you know, if I'm talking about RSR, then it's token economics with regards to an insurance, how the token helps to insure, you know, the stablecoin protocol, or, you know, token economics of Helium encourage the creation of 2G networks. It's so specific to different protocols. What I can tell you is that what you probably want is, you know, a 2 to 3 year analyst who's a crypto degen, and who, or a computer scientist or a physician who's good at math, and then for them to, good at math and a crypto degen, for them to be able to come in and analyze that and see what's best practice, because things are always evolving, and then you know, execute on token economics. What I will say, though, is that I do believe that token economics are the new massive customer acquisition opportunity. In 2008 or 9, I caught the newsfeed algorithm where it created a huge amount of customer acquisition and wealth for myself. In 2011, when Marissa Mayer brought stream ads into Yahoo, I managed to catch that wave and again create a ton of customer acquisition. So I have a sense of waves that can create customer acquisition. I think token economics is one of those waves, and I think we're going to prove it out with Nillion. So keep in contact with that project and see what we actually end up doing. I mean, it's so obvious when you look at the Helium protocol. Look at those networks; they're like literally all over the world, from tokens that were worthless before this project came up, in a system that encourages you to put a very intrusive device into your house well, you have to buy it, right, in hope that you actually get tokens for usage in this network. For someone to do that for tokens shows you that what it is a way to motivate people to do stuff, and thus being able to motivate to use it as a token economics, basically. So final parts of this, my biggest mistake. When I look at Hedera and I look at Reserve, and I look at the things I've done, Hedera has a fully diluted market cap of what, 12 bill, and Reserve have maybe 3, 4 bill, something like that, depending on the day with crypto. But I still think I made mistakes. And the biggest mistake that I made was I was so enamored by the technology, I was so enamored by the team, I was so enamored by the idea that I didn't focus on the development of the ecosystem. And that is why I think I did a top 30 and not a top 10, right? So not having a user and application focus from day one is where I think that I made the biggest mistake, right? I mean, look, it's a top 30 cryptocurrency and a top 100 cryptocurrency. I don't think, when I say mistake, it's what we're going to make sure we don't do in Nillion. And so what are we doing on Nillion? Firstly, we're obsessed with the ecosystem. The tech is as cool as Hedera was, if not cooler. The team is phenomenal. There's, the idea is great, but I'm literally focused on the ecosystem. How? Firstly, Founding Entrepreneur Program, where we are bringing on and a large portion of the founding team is incentivized via tokens, not on what happens with the protocol and the development of the protocol, but on the development of companies that are built off the protocol. That's how you create a top 10. Second is a phased approach to development, and thus utility use cases. So what is the thing we can bring to market immediately? So from an engineering perspective, if you read our white paper and understand the technology, the first thing we're likely to have to build is some form of authentication, which via the blockchain happens in terms of private keys. You put your private key in, therefore you authenticate to the network. But in our case, could be anything from your biometrics to, yes, a private key to your identity, et cetera, right? So that allows us to launch specific use cases early. I don't know, decentralized KYC, decentralized LastPass, decentralized Fireblocks, et cetera, but we don't necessarily have to go to the compute functions immediately, i.e., cross-chain dexes or complex data sharing and processing, etc. Right? These are not things that we have to do immediately. So we're going to phase the approach out, and then integrated token economics. As I said, token economics can incentivize all sorts of stuff. So we're going to make sure that the token economics incentivizes the ecosystem. All right, final point. Luck and probabilities make a big difference. Unfortunately, that's the case. But there is something that I've always done in all my companies, which I call stacking probabilities. Okay? And this doesn't always work, as probabilities express themselves. But for example, in Nillion, what we've done is we've got a crypto native team with we've got a bunch of unicorn veterans, founders of companies that have started unicorns before. We've got a fresh defensible technology. We're moving in a kind of white space. This is the culture of obsession. This is the slide that my team wrote. And then an evangelizing story, i.e. the inventor of this protocol invented some of the algorithms by which information flows through fiber optic cables. So he helps power the internet, basically. It's a great story, right? So all these things are designed to stack probabilities. And what does that actually do? Well, what is the outcome of stacking probabilities? We haven't made one capital we haven't requested one capital introduction, and the top names in Silicon Valley have come to us, often through there's no website even. You go to nillion.com, it's like a email collect, right? They've come to us and they've said, literally to our catch-all email, like info@nillion.com or something, and they've said, hey, really heard about you, somehow got a hold of your white paper, lots of people talking about you, is there potential to invest, or can we talk to you guys, right? what is that? That's the stacking of probabilities. And that's just one example of how it occurs. But then you get things like developers building on your network. You get people hearing about it who can make a very big difference, et cetera. So I think taking the right action and stacking those probabilities, everything I just mentioned in building a crypto unicorn is like a small cut. You keep making these cuts, and eventually you kill an elephant, which will create a unicorn. Final point, hard work and multidimensional thinking. I will say that my journey through this has not been without struggle. And for anyone thinking of creating a crypto unicorn, it sounds good, but you are the referee of your own life. So I would say that you have to weigh up whether the hard work is actually worth it, and whether you want to give up that agency in life to be able to do something like this. The trade-off is becoming less and less attractive to me, unless I kind of reframe it as, hey, I'm kind of changing the world. But that's a reframe. I know I'm reframing myself, right? You have to kind of decide if that hard work is worth it to you. And the final thing I'll say is on the point of connected and multidimensional thinking, not a phenomenal team, not timing a wave, not rewarding token economics, not evangelizing a community, or not disrupting tech. All of these things, plus potentially several other factors. I'm only one person who has done this twice, maybe 3 times now, right? Not one of them, but all of them make a difference. So I would encourage you to think multidimensionally, both in terms of the elements that you look for as you start these businesses, but also in terms of the effect that it's going to have in your life, which hopefully is a positive one. That's it. Thanks, guys.